Welcome to the West Ham Voice. Thank you for joining me on a Friday evening. Normally, I would do a review of the game at home at the stadium, but I was so excited after the 5-0 defeat of Freiburg that I decided to go and have a drink and a few more drinks with my mates after the game. And I kind of completely forgot that I should have done a review. I normally do a review at the stadium, but you can forgive me for the how excited I felt after the game. I'm sure you all did. It was a superb performance. And interestingly, leading up to the game, there's a little bit of negativity, wasn't there? You know, there was negativity about not having sold out the stadium. I think there was only about 7, maybe 8,000 tickets left at the end of the day, and most of those tickets were in the higher up tiers, and so you didn't quite notice it when given the noise that we were making in the crowd throughout the game, you didn't really notice that there were 7 or 8,000 empty seats. And also there was a bit of negativity, of course, about the time that the game started. We had no control over that. That was UEFA's decision, and I wouldn't be surprised with the likes of Liverpool still in the competition, whether UEFA decide to put us on at 5:45 again when we're playing at home. Who knows? I guess it's one of those things. We just have to get used to it. But also another bit of negativity leading up to the game was the speculation about David Moyes, about whether if we went out of the competition at this stage, whether he would survive that and whether he'd be under threat, maybe not seeing out the season if we were knocked out of the competition in the last 16. Now, I suggested that some time ago whilst we were still in the group stages, but at the time, I didn't know who we were going to play in the last 16. When I found out, and when we all found out that it was going to be against Freiburg, my mind was put at ease a bit. Now, don't get me wrong. That's not to be dismissive of Freiburg or to suggest that we were going to spank them. It was going to be an easy win or anything like that. But I kind of looked at the teams that were left and I sort of said to myself, if we get Freiburg, I think we stand a very good chance of getting through. And lo and behold, we did. We started the game, the 2 legs in when we started in Freiburg last week. We started poorly, didn't we? We beat them. Well, we lost against them 1-0. If you think about the group stages, we played all right against them. We beat them 2-1, they weren't. And then when they came to our ground during the group stages, and they put in that quite insipid performance when we beat them 2-0, the final game of the group stages, I sort of said to myself, this is not a team that looks as if it should, it's good enough to be in the Europa League at this stage. And I guess there was a little bit of apprehension when we went over there and we lost against them, but I still didn't think to myself, that there was so much in their game that was going to suggest that they were going to come to the London Stadium on Thursday night and beat us. So I was quietly confident, I guess. I thought we would have had the better of them, and so it turned out to be. Now, what about the game itself? Well, the lineup. There were 4 changes made to the lineup from the last 11 that was made. We had Antonio starting a game for the first time. Aaron Cresswell came in, of course, for the injured Emerson. And I looked at that lineup, and I think the only surprise to me probably may have been in defence. I thought perhaps Ben Johnson would have started over Cresswell, and I thought perhaps maybe we would have seen Ogbonna alongside Zuma. But look, I think it was a decent lineup, and I think we did the job that we had to do. The addition to Cresswell was interesting because a bit like Danny Ings in last week against Burnley, these are players in the squad that you kind of think their days are numbered, their days are over, they're not really going to offer much. But just like Danny Ings, of course, Aaron Cresswell proved that he still had something to offer to West Ham United in the latter stages of this season. Look, both players, I think, have given David Moyes, both Danny Ings and Aaron Cresswell have given David Moyes a reminder that they've got something to offer. So when it comes to the squad, I'm beginning to feel a little bit more comfortable. When we didn't get any players in the January window apart from Calvin Phillips, and we let several players go. I did suggest we were going to be light, and I kept thinking about the likes of Ings and the likes of Creswell and saying to myself, are they really going to be able to sort of like fill the gaps if we get injuries and so on and so forth? But they've done that, and long may it rain for the remainder of this season. We've got 10 games left in the Premier League. God knows how many games we've got left in the Europa League. We've got 2 coming up, of course. So I'm pleased for them. I'm pleased that Creswell and Ings over the last couple of games have proven that they are capable of offering something a little more. Now, what about the team? Well, of course, it all started off. The route started off with Lucas Paqueta only on the 8th minute. We needed an early start, didn't we? We needed something to get the crowd going. We needed something to make Freiburg think, right, we've now got to come out and play, because I've no doubt that Freiburg probably set themselves up to say, let's contain West Ham United, let's frustrate them, let's not give them an early goal. But what worked out for us was that early goal on the 8th minute. Lucas Paqueta getting on the end of a header from a corner from Thomas Soucek. And it all started, didn't it? All right, it took a little bit more time to actually get the next goal on, what was it, on the 31st minute? Something like that, where Jared Bowen, Jared Bowen does. You either see Kudus do it or you see Bowen do it, cutting in from the right-hand side, getting it in on their left peg, and smashing the ball into the net in that bottom left-hand corner of the keeper. It was a superb second goal, and it gave us, it quietened, it calmed us down a little bit. That's what we needed going into the second half, a good cushion there. But of course, being 2-1 up, if Freiburg had got a goal, then they'd have been straight back in it, wouldn't they? They made changes at halftime. They brought on their goal scorer from last week, Gregoric, for Vinco Grifo, but it didn't seem to make an awful lot of difference to their attacking prowess. Fabianski had very little to do throughout the game, but what he had to do, he did exceptionally well. Not under pressure, but it doesn't matter. It means that our defense was also doing their job for once as well and keeping them at bay. And then, of course, in the second half, with 7 minutes of the second half kicked off, Aaron Creswell rolled back the years and got the ball just on the inside of the 18-yard box and cushioned it, placed it, smashed it. Didn't necessarily smash it, but he placed it dead in the corner, again, the left side of the goalie. And it was a superb goal. And that's when you knew, more or less, that the game was over. I'm really pleased for Creswell. That was his first goal since something like 2022. So I'm really pleased for him. You could see the delight in his face and the players around him as well. Now, at that point, 3-0, 3-1 on aggregate, David Moyes absolutely started to think about what we needed for the game against Aston Villa this coming Sunday. And he started to think about who he should be taking off and resting. And the first player that came off was Lucas Paqueta on the 61st minute, something like that. All right, he wasn't happy to be taken off, but I saw the benefit of that. I understood the reasoning for that. Paqueta, he did his job. He was... he played a good game in midfield. He was in central of attacking midfield rather than being out on the left. Kudus, of course, starting on the left, and he looks to be getting better and better on that side. And Bowen on the other side, and Paqueta in the middle. He did his job. Ward-Prowse came on for him, and a completely different type of player. But we were comfortable, and I hope Paqueta didn't take it in the wrong way, because Moyes was clearly thinking about Sunday, and it was right to take him off. And then, of course, the Mohammed Kudus show started. And boy, oh boy, did it start. Well, I mean, incredible. The way he picked the ball up on the 77th minute and he ran through their midfield and their defense as if, it was reminiscent of, prime Ryan Giggs. I'm trying to think of a West Ham player that might have been anything similar. And to me, probably in the old days, Alan Devonshire would have been that kind of mazy winger runner to Kudus. Absolutely superb. He beat several players. I lost count, 4 or 5 players before sliding it into the, again, left-hand side of the goal. What a superb goal it was. And look, this is how there's a camaraderie at West Ham, and these sorts of photos sort of suggest that it's all happy in the background there. That for Kudus to be able to score that goal and for his teammates to actually celebrate in the way they did was absolutely stunning. And then, of course, to cap it all off, he got another goal on the 85th minute, making it a double for Kudus. And again, that left-hand side. Now, I'm pretty certain that West Ham United, the coaches, must have been looking at the way that Freiburg, of course they would have done, the way Freiburg is set up, but also what the weaknesses of the Freiburg keeper might have been. And it's evident that that left side of his goal was his weakness, because all 5 goals went into that corner. And then, of course, we had an introduction, didn't we? George Earthy came on the, what was it, 80th minute, something like, no, 85th minute, George Earthy came on. Several other substitutions were made. Kudus came off, Bowen came off. Of course, Paqueta, as I said, came off. Antonio came off as well, and they were replaced by other players, giving them all a rest. And then on the 85th minute, with Jared Bowen coming off, George Earthy made his senior debut for West Ham United. 19 years of age, central midfielder, an awful lot of talent, an awful lot of skill, and it was good to see. It was good to see David Moyes using the youth. How come? I thought he didn't bother with them. All right, many are going to argue, it was the 85th minute, we were already 5-0 up, but so what? He gave him a debut, and I was pleased for that. Look, Kudus and Alvarez were both subbed off, as I said. And the one thing that, if there's a negative to any part of what happened on Thursday night, is that Alvarez has picked up his 3rd yellow card. And unfortunately, all he had to do was not get a yellow card, and then all the cards would have been wiped out for the next stage. And he's going to miss the first leg of the quarterfinal against Bayer Leverkusen in a couple of weeks' time. That's about the only real negative that I think you could talk about. It's a shame, but it's going to be very, very interesting what David Moyes will do when it comes to replacing Alvarez, because Calvin Phillips came on. His first touch, I do feel sorry for Calvin Phillips. He was as nervous as hell. He misplaced the pass. It went straight out for a throw on. And you felt that the crowd sort of like, there was a groan. You could almost felt it going across the whole stadium. I wonder what David Moyes is going to do. To me, I think it's pretty obvious that he will use Calvin Phillips as a replacement to Alvarez for the first leg against Leverkusen. Will this be Calvin Phillips' moment to really demonstrate what he's capable of doing? I hope so. I did suggest when we signed him that perhaps he could make a bit of a difference to West Ham United. It hasn't worked out yet, but why not in this game? Such a massive game against Bayer Leverkusen. Look, the whole game itself, it was a superb performance. It was on the front foot. It gave the players such a massive boost in their confidence, etc. But it also gave the fans. I mean, the fans were superb on Thursday night. And as I started off the show saying, with all the bit of negativity about that, fans not turning up, fans not being happy that it's a 5:45 kickoff, etc. There were enough fans in that stadium, and when that first goal went in, and then we got the second and the third one, I think, really gave us that ease, that confidence, the Cresswell goal, and the fans played their part in the win on Thursday night. The fans were as superb as the players were on the pitch. And then as for David Moyes, what happens next? Because it's a boost in confidence for Moyes as well. Much maligned, as we know. Getting West Ham United to the last 8 of this competition is no mean feat. And I think it might galvanise the board in their resolve. I've said this already. It's no secret that the board want David Moyes to stay. It's no secret that there is a contract on offer, but it may not be to David Moyes' liking. But I just wonder what will happen from here on in, because getting us to the last 8 of this tournament is a difficult thing to do. We really are at the business end of it now, of course, because playing Bayer Leverkusen is going to be quite a hard task. But you get past the Leverkusen, and then the world's your oyster. So it's going to be interesting to see what develops between now and the end of this season about the managerial role. I'm not saying David Moyes will get it, and I understand that the criticism that he's gotten over time about the style of play, etc. But as many have said, if he continues with the style of play that's been demonstrated against Brentford, that's been demonstrated in the second half against Burnley, and that has been demonstrated against Freiburg for the whole 90 minutes, who knows what could happen?